All right, welcome everybody to Cycle Jerks Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Stewart, joined as always by Chris Padavana. How you doing, Chris?
Good, good. How are you, Mike?
Good, thanks.
All
Yep.
right.
And today's guest is someone that both Chris and I know well. Chris knows her a little bit better than I do, but
Yes.
yeah, Chris Cover joining us today from Trek Bicycles, Castro Valley. Chris, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, fellas. Glad to be here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Chris and Chris worked together for how many years did you guys work together?
She probably kept that
13.
account. 13? Okay, I was gonna say 11, but she said 13. So Chris was she was known as my work wife
Oh,
during
Hmm.
the Eden tenure. So
13 long and tedious years. No,
uh,
Ah,
no, I'm just kidding.
they're
No.
joyful years.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, okay, so I'm curious, having worked with Chris and then now working for a corporation, what's the juxtaposition like?
Well, it's very different. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
Um, and
It's
and I would say,
organized.
ha, there's pros and cons, right? With
Yeah.
with both. And I'm not sure exactly how you want me to answer. Um, I really loved working for Chris and Aaron.
Yeah.
I loved small business. It was fun. It was like, you're in a battle and you make decisions and you go with them and they work or they don't work and you learn and then you adjust. And I think I like that aspect where as opposed to when you're with a larger corporation, which is probably true in any business, it's like trying to turn a barge.
Hmm.
It's going to take a long time for
Yes.
something to change, and you do things the way the company does them. And I'm not saying that's bad. It's just that there's not the autonomy, that an individual bike shop has.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I deal with that at Giant too, Giant's
Sure.
this big ship moving in a direction. And even no matter how valid the point may be, it's still, it just takes a long time, even if everyone's in agreement to like get the thing changing directions or doing something a little bit differently. It's one of the challenges, the economies of scale,
Right.
economies of
Yeah.
scale is always used as an advantage, typically, when people are talking about the economies of scale, they're pointing out how their business has this advantage, but it can also work against too at times. But
Yep.
probably the benefits probably outweigh you know, the negatives when it comes to every basically these companies driving the marketing bus for the brand and doing big picture things like, having
Mm,
a world tour team and all this cool stuff that as a small independent retailer you can't really do. Um,
right.
yeah, so
Yeah. Yeah.
so that's kind of
Yeah.
cool.
We have
Yeah.
ambassadors.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and it all depends on what you value, and I
Hmm.
think that's different for, different employees as well as different customers, and a sense
Sure.
of community or family versus the huge resources, that big companies can offer. So, yeah, it's just different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so our good friend and former co-host Dave Dalton is over
Yeah.
there also. And
Yes.
how's that been? Getting him up to speed.
You should ask him. He could
Yeah, we
probably
did. We
answer
had him
that
on. Yeah.
better. Yeah, I think he's doing well. I mean, you'd have to ask him about the adjustment, from going from owning your own shop to being a man. And I feel for managers, you can't make those quick decisions. Like I remember there would be times with Eden when we would get down to two employees or whatever the case may be, and Chris having the freedom to just, I'm going to pick this guy up who I know from, so and so's son who can come in for 3 hours an afternoon, or hey, there's this guy over here, and being able to move quickly on those
Mhm.
things, where I can see how everything else now is just a process, it's just so much bigger process that um, it make things just take longer. So
Yeah.
Right.
very,
Yeah.
very different, very different. So we're dealing with that now. We need a service manager, another salesperson is leaving, and then it's like, okay, how do we fill these holes before the boat starts sinking? You know? Right?
Yeah.
That's what you got to do.
Yeah. I was on the phone with somebody the other day. I'm trying to remember who it was, but for some reason it came up something about Trek jobs, you know? And so I just got on the website and went down to careers and I started scrolling. It's like, holy smokes, they have so many positions available.
Oh, really?
Yeah, on the website. I mean, I don't know how active they are in filling all of those positions, but yeah, I mean, and it
But
is a little bit like that. It is global too, so it does.
Mm.
right.
It's got stuff outside the United States in there too. You
And
can filter it down, but yeah, it's
that goes the same too, because I've looked like on Specializes website for their careers. It's
Mm.
like, it's like pages, and a lot of them are global, right? And then
right.
some of them are internal or maybe at a store level. So I think the industry, it just seems to have this kind of rotating, you know,
Yeah.
staff, right?
Well,
So
yeah,
people in and out.
we certainly did at Eden. I mean, it's just part of it. And I think especially the industry as a whole, and then being in the Bay Area, I mean, that was always our struggle, right? Like how we want to pay guys enough, to work, but they also want to buy houses and go on vacation.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a balance to that.
But I
For
think,
sure.
with the, at least this is my view of, but not being a corporate store, is that, we could develop a community,
Hmm.
or like a more of a closer bond with your staff. Um,
Hmm.
and so I don't know, how is that at Trek? Is it kind of the same kind of vibe in a store like that?
You know, for me, I'm fine because I mean, I think it is as long as people stick around and long enough to create that vibe.
Hmm.
Because I mean, I've enjoyed working for Trek. I've enjoyed, I would say, 99% of the staff that come through the store. But that's just it. It's just hard to get the footing when there isn't an owner, right? Because like even when we had moving pieces before, Chris was always there. It's like right.
Right.
It's like he's not going. But
Yeah.
now a manager, even if they stay with the company, they may opt for another store closer to home, or things like that. Um, I remember, bike shops to me are almost like, it's like your doctor, so in some ways, where for better or worse, you want to see the same guy, or gal, once
Hmm.
you make that relationship and connection, you're like, oh, they know my bike, they know what I like to ride, or they know this and that, as opposed to a new guy you get, and you have to continually rebuild the relationship when staff is shifting,
Hmm.
when even if it's just part-time people or whatever, they ask what days you're there because it's not because you're better necessarily, they just want to talk to the same person.
Yeah.
So
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, doctor's a good analogy. You're the bike doctor a lot of times, so what the heck,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
I'm just the
So,
check-in person.
yeah.
I think
Yeah.
I think a lot of bike shop employees tend to be like therapists for a lot of people, man.
Sure.
They
Yeah.
come
Yeah.
in and they're like dumping all their blah 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 blah. You're like,
Uh-huh.
ah,
That's true with sales reps too.
100%.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
right. I'm
Well,
sure, yeah. Any relationship kind of business like that.
Yeah.
and for bikes, I mean, I know Chris obviously works on his own bikes, but like, that's my life. If I go out on my bike and something fails, and I like who I trust with my bike is a big thing to me. So
Sure.
for me to go into a store and just pass it over to an unknown would be a very big deal to me.
Yeah.
So
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
everything's got to work.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, even if it's not something that causes heaven forbid, a crash or something, but even if you just you got an hour and a half and you want to get
Yeah.
out and go do a thing, and then you get on the bike, and then 5 minutes in, you realize like, oh, I
Yeah.
got, I got to turn around now. I'm
Yeah.
all dressed up and nowhere to go.
Right.
Right.
That's frustrating.
Right.
Yeah. So,
Uh,
Chris, I'm curious. So, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Modesto, out in the Central Valley.
Oh,
And we
okay.
actually, John and I actually came to Chris for our bikes back then, like in, I want to say like 2005-ish, something like that.
Right.
We a friend of ours who knew Chris from racing said, "You got to check out this guy's shop in Castro Valley." And we'd never seen, this is the height of the Lance Armstrong era still, that kind of thing. So
Yeah.
for us to see like, ooh, Dura Ace and things like that was, we were kind of starstruck by the equipment and then being able to test ride it and that kind of thing. So that's how that relationship started.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, and then
uh,
we from Modesto we moved to Hawaii, and when we moved back we needed more bikes because we
Okay.
sold our bikes when we moved, and that's when we hooked up again with the Podavana there, and on the I remember it quite clearly. He was fitting me for my bike, and he asked me what I was doing, and I'm like, well, I watch TV and I work out because we had just moved back. I wasn't doing anything, and he said he was looking for someone part time, and I was like, well, that sounds fun. So here we are.
Yeah.
that's
13 years
right.
later, right?
Right.
Yeah. So, so the move to Hawaii, what prompted that?
That's a very good question. So John was not a nurse when we met and got married.
Okay.
And so he had gone back to school because he didn't like he wasn't content with what he was doing. So went back to school and thought, well, be a nurse, we can travel, you hear about traveling nurses and stuff like that. And he finished the program and was working at a hospital in Modesto, and we realized we're not traveling. we're not doing anything. So we had to like, well, we like Hawaii, whatever. So started looking at jobs there and got a job with Maui Memorial and rented out our house and off we went. It's definitely not the best financial decision to make, but it was it was definitely life changing. I mean, look at all the I mean, I would never know you folks. I doubt our path would have taken us to the Bay Area. So it's very, your life is your life, what you make it. And I wouldn't change it for anything, but it was a fun couple of years over there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you scuba dive before that? Because I know you were working at a scuba shop when you were living in Maui, or was that something you took on
Yeah.
there?
It was so I had like just like vacation dives, like intro type dives, but I didn't become certified until we moved. So, and then I got a job at a dive shop that paid like a whopping $8 an hour. So,
Just
but
hang loose, man. Just hang loose.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
but we made commissions and all the dive trips were free and all that. So that's what we did. We anything that the dive shop booked, we could go for free. So like the luau's and all that, that's where we'd go eat. We go do all that kind of stuff. So we did all
Yeah.
the helicopter rides and all that kind of stuff for free. But yeah, so then recession in 2010 that hit John's work there where they were going to be reducing his pay, and we're like, okay. So some of his friends were going to work at Kaiser Oakland. And he thought, well, we've always liked the East Bay. So he applied for a job at Kaiser Oakland. And that's when we ended up back in the Bay.
Got it.
That's our
Nice.
story.
Yeah.
Well, I cover Hawaii, so I go over there for work and I
Yeah.
deal with these accounts, and it is surprising. Like most of the accounts over there are mainlanders. I have a
Mm,
couple exceptions, but almost everybody that owns a bike shop over there on the islands, they're mostly mainlanders. Eh,
interesting.
yeah, and I dealt with this guy for a lot of years on Maui, and he had been there 20 years. And then he just decided that he'd had enough, and then he moved. He
Mm,
moved off the island. He sold his or closed
yeah.
his shop and moved back to the mainland. And a lot of the people there will say, "Oh, people usually come for 2, 3 years. If they make it to
Yeah.
5 years, then there's a good chance they might stick. But they see a lot of transient.
Hmm.
The
That's true.
population base is just really transient. But it's so beautiful. It's easy to get caught up over there on just how beautiful things are, and the bike riding's amazing. But um, at the end of the day, it's a small island, and
Hmm.
you could see most of the sites in one day. You
Yeah,
know,
that's true.
so it's a lot different than it is here. But yeah, I love it over there too. And yeah, I've made my pleas a couple times, trying to convince my wife that it might be cool to try to live over there, but she's not having it. Yeah, so
None.
no, probably yeah, she's smarter than I am, so makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and COVID really affected. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
we were reminiscing this morning that we're coming up on 5 years now from when COVID first started, and what that did to the islands and their economy.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, we can't even imagine. I mean, many people had to come back to the mainland because of it.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, so Modesto to Castro Valley to Hawaii, and then Oakland. So how about you with the bike though? When did you get going with the bicycle?
Ah, so that's because of John, actually. I
Hmm.
used to run, and as what happens to most runners, the injuries caught up. You're just running along and your calf pops or whatever. And
Hmm.
John had a bike, and I was like, okay, well, let's do that. And I remember asking him, as like when you're newly married, what do you want to, what's on your bucket list? What do you want to do? And he's like, well, I want to ride my bike 100 miles. And my runner brain took over with, well, that's not too hard. Let's plan it out. Let's
Right?
train and let's get there. And we did that. And actually, now cycling, it's something we really do enjoy together. And I know not every couple can ride together and have a good
Yeah.
time.
Right?
Um,
Yeah. I have no idea what you're talking about.
I mean, I know we could never ride a tandem. I already know that that would
Uh-huh.
never work.
Yeah.
But and we don't ride together all the time because of his work schedule. But yeah, we usually get in one to two a week together, and we have a good time. So
Hmm.
That's good.
yeah,
That's, I
but
mean,
it's
that's
because of
good.
him. Yeah,
Yeah, that's cool. So when you went to see Chris for the first time, did you have a bike already, or was it more
I
like,
did. I
okay,
had this is beyond blows my mind. I had a friend buy me a bike because he was
wow.
going down to LA to some, I think it was called Super Go. You guys
Oh
may
yeah,
know better than
sounds
I do.
right. Yep.
Yeah.
Um, and got me a specialized delay, like an aluminum something or another. And I thought it was cool because it was red and white. That was good enough for me. So
Uh-huh.
um, that was so yeah. That's what I can't think of what year that would have been, like 2003 or so.
Hmm.
But and I already forgot your original question. What were you asking me?
Well, wow, you guys, did you have a bike before you went and saw
Oh, that was
Chris?
my
And
bike.
yeah,
Yeah, but I mean, even as a kid, though, I loved bikes as a kid. I used to go, and it cracks me up. I was probably 11 years old, and we had a local bike shop, and I would go in there and just stare at all the bikes all day. And I always
Mhm.
had a bike as a kid, and I definitely rode way outside the boundary that, my parents set for me, that
yeah,
kind of thing, like we all did.
yeah.
A Peugeot was my first. I remember it said down tube shifters and all that back then, but I loved it. I would ride out to my friend's house in Oakdale and do all kinds of stuff. So it's definitely been. I mean, I'm an outdoor kid from the era we grew up in,
Yeah.
but it's definitely been an activity all through. I rode my bike to school. That was my transportation and that kind of thing. So I definitely love bikes. There's even I did have a social worker real job for 16 years, and I remember not always enjoying it and driving and thinking if I could do anything, like money was not an option. Like that was not a factor. What job would you choose? And I was thinking I would work in a bike shop. Like that's what I would want to do. So and that was way before any of this, just because I thought that sounds fun,
Yeah.
So working for me is like a dream come true.
Oh, in so many ways.
Well, I still contend. I think it could be a fun TV show, with
Oh
like a
God.
reality show. The the people that come through the
I
door at the
agree.
bike shop, it's an adventure a lot of times.
Yes, but
Yes.
we would have to behave because we would lose all our customers.
Yeah,
You don't always want to see behind the curtain, you know?
yeah,
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
that's true. Yeah, so Chris was saying that he wanted to talk to you about being a woman in the industry. And yeah, it
Mm,
is it is interesting. Obviously, it's a male-dominated industry.
sure.
And it can be intimidating at times. Do
Hmm.
you ever get feels like that or a sense of that with either working at Eden or working with Trek and I'm just curious, what are the scenarios that may lead you to feel that way?
I don't because, but that doesn't mean other women wouldn't. I
Yeah,
think for me, starting out, like you're always a little intimidated in any new job, especially when
sure.
you've never worked in before. So some of that was more just my lack of knowledge.
Hmm.
So sometimes it's hard to know what could be because of gender and what is just because it's me, So I mean, a
Yeah.
dude in a similar situation. Um, I've enjoyed it. I think it was an adjustment. Um, it was an adjustment. I'll just say that. I
Yeah.
worked in a junior high boys locker room
Oh.
for a while. So, some of that was like I didn't even understand the jokes sometimes.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I
I
think
do
we taught
now.
Chris. Yeah, we taught Chris quite a few things there
Uh-huh.
that she probably could have went
But
on without ever knowing.
Oh
yes,
boy.
but again, it was totally fine. And none of that ever rose to a level that I would find an issue. I mean, I always thought that again, is that because I'm a woman or is that because maybe I'm more conservative than some folks are? So there's always going to be other factors in play, right? So
Sure.
but I always had good fun with it. Um and I think the guys, I remember, gosh, it was early on. I can't remember what mechanics it was. I know Matt was still there, but something was said, and I was just like, whatever, But I don't care. Just walk away.
Yeah.
And but that's what I think afforded me other courtesies. Like you can't, for instance, I'm not going to carry a bike in a box up the stairs. That can't happen because I don't have the strength to do it, right?
Sure.
But so if I'm going to get a little privilege because of that, I don't feel like, oh, but then you can't make your jokes, right? Like
Hmm.
that, to me, that doesn't go together. It's like you can't have it both ways, right? It's
Yeah.
like, so anyway, I thought I was always treated more than fairly. I think there were some times I probably felt a little left out, but that's okay.
Hmm.
I'm a big girl, so don't take that the wrong way.
Sure.
But like even now, it's like I get it. The guys might want to go for their mountain bike ride, but then again, I'm also not a mountain bike rider. So there's other things like that. I remember with you, I remember you would always bring swag in for the guys. And I never like I'd be like, well,
Yeah.
where's my shirt? Oh, we don't
Uh-huh.
have any smalls. Like, well, why not?
I had no say in those things, by the way.
Oh, so you say.
Yeah, but thankfully, Liv was established, and then all of a sudden, I'm getting all these shirts.
Fantastic. Yeah.
I got to get them away then, So, uh,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's a different environment, but again, I've always enjoyed it. And I also like we've touched on I referee basketball, so I'm around dudes. So I also like that I don't have to say excuse me if I sneeze, or burp or whatever.
right,
So
yeah.
I kind of don't mind it. So I don't know. It's all good with me. I would say I wish more women would get into the industry because kind of like car sales, right? I think some women can come in and they need to feel like they're being heard, they're not being talked down to or discarded. And I
Hmm.
think, well, Eden especially, and I'm at Trek still, there's accommodation for that. Like I never saw one of our guys be condescending to someone just because they're female. But I would
Yeah.
not think that's the case at every shop.
Yeah.
Well, I know like early on in the 90s when I was managing Bicycle USA, we had a friend of ours, Kim. She was working with us. And this is version 1.0 for Chris. And you know, it wasn't good. You know, and because I was young and not as mature and I didn't have a wife either. So,
Oh
but
That's
boy.
key.
yeah, that's key for sure. And you know, she ended up. She was one day she was crying, and I was just like, oh
Oh,
shit. You
Oh,
know, and I, you know, and it was, you
huh.
know, it just, yeah. So anyway, 2.0, Cover's there. You know, you're just like, hey guys, you know, it's like you have to
Yeah.
kind of know, like, you know, try to keep it to a minimum.
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. I was going to say, you may not realize it and it may not feel that way, but I'm sure that the shop really did a course correction having you around, right? Because I know like you just put a bunch of dudes in a room and, you know, who knows what's going to be said.
Yeah.
Some wild shit is going to be said. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And so I saw that when I was, you know, I managed a shop in Livermore and we hired, a retired guy, and we'll call her soccer mom. This lady is a soccer mom. But like the culture of the shop completely changed.
Yeah.
Like I went from having to, like, you know, and I'm sure Chris, it's a fine line. Like you can kind of joke around, but then there's always somebody who wants to take it too far. And
Right.
like when you're managing people, you don't want to be like, you know, just this hammer all the time. Oh, he's the no fun guy because it's a fun
Yeah.
industry. We're in it. We love what we do and we're having a good time and taking care of people and we want to have fun doing it. But there is this fine line between, you know, too far. And I was always that guy that kind of had to be like, hey guys, you know, come on.
Right.
And but then once we got these two employees in, all of a sudden I didn't have to have those conversations anymore because
Hmm.
it never really went in that way. You know, the conversations would change and what was being talked about or joked about was just different. And so yeah, it's you know,
But I think it's the change that
good.
needs to
It's a good thing
happen too. And
for
I think,
sure.
you know, not just in the work environment, but having, you know, my experience or my view is having someone like Cover on the team also helped us at retail too. You know, it's like having somebody that because I think that maybe not every woman that comes in or even some guys might feel intimidated coming into a
Hmm.
store. There's all this like fancy stuff and I don't know what I'm talking. I mean, that happens to me when I go into a store
Yeah.
that I'm
Mhm.
not familiar with, right? So
Yeah,
having someone who, you know, maybe you can relate to easier,
Hmm.
you know, can break some barriers for sure.
sure.
Oh, I agree. I remember we had a customer with when we were still eating. He was looking at Santa Cruz, looking at some big time Santa Cruz bikes, and I'm like, I start talking to him, and many times with those sales, I would need some assistance with higher end mountain bikes. And when I was telling him my basics, oh, the drivetrain's this, and he goes, "Now tell me again what you mean by drivetrain." And then I realized, like I
Yeah.
got this one.
Uh-huh. Right.
You know, we weren't talking about this, that, and the other, that I don't understand.
Well,
So, but yeah, I agree with Chris. I think in any case, the more diverse your staff can be, the more points you're going to hit on the people who walk through the door.
no doubt.
Because if you're all the same person, whatever person that is, if you're all the same type of person, that's not who's coming in the door,
Yeah.
and who you can accommodate.
Yeah. Totally agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I recognize this in myself even too. Like if I go shop somewhere and if I've got, I don't know, it's just like the person who's helping me, a lot of times the best experience is handled by somebody that's around my age, I feel
Mm,
like, whereas if I get a younger person, now there are exceptions because I've had some really great young people help me. But generally speaking, it's like I feel the most comfort with somebody that's around my age. So, yeah, and when I was just a kid managing a shop, I didn't have that kind of visibility,
yeah.
I was, yeah. But yeah, having a mixture of age and gender,
Sure.
really, really smart. Yeah, as a retailer. And you know, um, the biking, I do feel like because I've seen it, maybe it's just because I represent Live, but I've seen like a real effort on behalf of the bike industry to try to be more welcoming to women. But it's still hard to pull women into the industry in general, you know.
Yeah. Well, and I think cycling in general, right? Like,
Yeah.
I would have never gotten into cycling on my own. Um, like the places that John and I would ride, like just as a woman out there by myself, I would have never done that,
Hmm.
yet alone my early days, the inability to change a puncture or something like that, where there'd be, I understand it. I understand when gals are like, well, I want to get in cycling, but I'm not going to make myself so vulnerable, that
Right.
being out somewhere. I think we see like things like the Cinderella ride, or like we used to do the Eden Divas, that give women that, community or some friends that they can go ride with if they have a non-riding spouse or partner. I think that's been very useful too.
Yeah.
Some kind of community, I think
Mm-hmm.
is nice like that. That's why I always felt like our Eden Diva group, which was just a women's training group to build up to the Cinderella, which was an all women's ride, was to have that community where they could kind of form friendships and bond and go ride
Yeah.
together, right? Because I think to your point, yeah, uh, it could be intimidating or a little bit
Mm-hmm.
sketchy or scary when you're out there by yourself and
Yeah.
you yeah, for hopefully you don't get a flat tire, something like
Yeah.
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. It could be sketchy or scary sometimes for anybody, a lot of time,
Sure.
Yeah.
because you do get in these remote areas, but also, just more so for a woman, of course, because there's just a lot of weird stuff going
Yeah.
on out there in
Yeah,
this,
right.
yeah, this world we live in. Um, but yeah, so all right, well that's good because it's good to get that perspective. And have you seen like a similar welcoming nature with Trek and just in general?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. And it's, it's always, it's a very professional environment, and there's no issues that way. I feel appreciated. And Dalton, there's definitely a difference with the guys who are married. Just I'm
Uh-huh.
sure in any work situation,
Uh-huh.
because they know, you know
Right.
how you treat your wife, or you have said things and you realize I should never say that again, and same for me. But
Yes.
so there, I appreciate, like you said, working with Dalton's great, or even, having Corey as who was our service manager. He's married and long relationship. There's just a difference. So anyway, but it's all
Sure.
good. Yeah, working for Trek's been great. I don't. They have women who manage stores and things like that throughout the company. So
Yeah.
yeah, it seems
Yeah,
all good.
that's
Yeah. That's
good.
yeah. Are you
Yeah.
planning out now for the longest time when you worked with Chris, I think you just worked like 1 or 2 days a week, right?
Not for
Or
Chris.
oh, really?
I
Get that
wanted
girl in here.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
to. No, I think it fluctuated through the years with Chris. From four, I think for a little while, five, back to four, and then to three, and then COVID. We pulled through COVID somehow, and then yeah, 3 days a week seems to work really well. But then with Trek, it's been less in the winter, and then more spring and summer is more. But I'm really okay with that because I work my basketball games, and thankfully we're in a position where the money isn't changing our world, so to say. So
Yeah.
it's fine. I've been happy. I know. Um, yeah, so I don't have anything to complain about. So,
Yeah. That's great. So basketball, did you grow up playing basketball?
no, I played some, and then I played as a like sixth, seventh, eighth grade, and then in high school I dislocated my knee and did that for like 3 years of dislocating my knee until I had surgery. So it
Oh
kind of
wow.
put all that on the side, um, and that's fine. But I've always loved the game, and then I would go. and I would, like any knucklehead young fan, think the refs were terrible. And so I thought, well, I'm gonna show them. I'm gonna learn how to do it. And then, like anything else, you realize it's a lot harder than you thought, and it takes a couple years to realize how terrible you were when you started. But I really have enjoyed it. I've met a lot of really good people that I would never know,
Hmm.
otherwise, that we would have this strange hobby that we all like to do. And yeah, it's been fascinating. I'll probably only do it a few more years because the legs don't recover like they did 15 years, 20 years ago.
Uh-huh.
So what are you gonna do?
Have you
Right.
ever, Chris, have you ever tried umpiring or officiating anything? Like, have
I
you?
did.
Myself or
Yeah.
her? Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, so
yeah.
you gotta be specific.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Padavana?
we just call her
CP.
Cover. Yeah, Cover or
Yeah.
All right,
Maxine.
Cover. All right.
Yeah.
So CP,
Yeah.
have you ever thrown yourself into that fire?
I did. I did some umpiring.
Really?
Yeah, I was younger, obviously, but yeah, so I was doing some umpiring, which is funny because some of the kids that I umpired, I know them now as like parents or adults. In
Yeah.
fact, one of them
Yep.
is like the chief of police at Hayward, right? Right. It's like you kids, I can't believe you're the chief of police. I know
Yeah.
the stuff you did.
I threw you out of that game in eighth
Yeah.
grade.
All right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, those are always fun. That
It
being
is,
involved in sports like that.
there's some intense scrutiny that comes along with that,
Yep.
and
Well,
yeah, that's
yeah,
why.
because people
Yeah, go.
probably think that you are like I hate it when people think you're trying to you're being biased or some
Yeah.
like you're like, look, no, it's like it happens so instantaneous. It's like you're not thinking that, when you're making
Right.
a call.
Oh, totally. It's like I'm not good enough to be biased. It's like if I screw it up, I'll screw it up for both teams. It's like I'm not
Right.
we definitely don't get it all right. I mean, I watch a lot of basketball because I love the game, and
Mhm.
we miss calls every level every night. It's just part of it. And what has changed, because I've been doing it for like 27 years now,
Wow.
is the video, right? Like when I started this, first of all, 27 years ago was only like 1998. So it wasn't that long ago. um, but back then, your your games weren't on video every night. Your game wasn't on YouTube or Twitter or whatever,
Uh-huh.
Like
Right.
now, some random game out in Iowa in a high school, something can happen that's special or whatever, and it can end up on all our living rooms where I say what you will about the late 90s, but that didn't happen.
Right. Yeah. It's
So
like
yeah, it's
anything else,
changed.
right? I mean, you can get away back in the day, you could get away with a lot of different things that
Yep.
you just can't get away with anymore. I
No.
was listening to this guy on a podcast, and he was like a former FBI guy, and he was talking about this cold case where it was like the perfect murder, and like there was no evidence whatsoever, and then he gets called in like months after, and somebody that worked for the city noticed a pattern with this van parking in this particular area.
Hmm.
Anyway, so the guy, goes and looks at it. The van was pulling up to this place all the way up until the murder. After the murder, and the van never came back to this spot. And the guy was
Hmm.
getting out, riding his bike. Anyway, they end up catching the guy because it was a traffic cam that caught
Yep.
this guy parking his van way off the scene of the crime, you know. But
Crazy.
yeah, so nowadays, not that we'd ever want to murder anybody, but if you
Yeah.
blow a traveling call,
Yep.
All right.
yeah,
Yeah.
back in the
Yep.
day, you say, hey, you saw it wrong, I got it right, it was a
Right.
travel.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah. Yeah, basketball is interesting because the emotions can get, well, I guess that's true with baseball too, because I had a parent get all rowdy with me one time I was umpiring.
Hmm.
But we played when I managed a shop in Livermore here, I thought it'd be cool for us to have a city league basketball team. I was so
Hmm.
so naive in this. So this is like men's basketball, and
Hmm.
so we put this team together. I'm thinking we're gonna like play and then we'll go get pizza and beer
Yeah,
afterwards. I'm thinking it's gonna be like a really fun thing, and maybe we're gonna meet some new people, make some
yeah.
customers. It's all gonna be good. No, 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 no. The people in men's basketball, I'm going to generalize here, but a lot of them are what we call likes to fight guy. That's
Oh,
who's in that
geez.
league. And so, like, some innocent thing happens, and then next thing you know, somebody's like pushing you, going, "You can't disrespect me." And then the
Oh,
next thing you
gosh.
know, dudes are rolling around on the gym. And then
Oh,
people are getting, cops are
jeez.
called, and it's like, what is happening here? I just wanted, can we just go get a beer and have some
Yeah,
pizza?
It's their
But
outlet for their work or whatever.
yeah,
right.
okay, right. Yeah.
I had a
Yeah.
crappy day.
That's right.
Yeah.
I'm going to take it out on this little guy that thinks he can dribble or whatever. But I do you see that? Because it can get pretty intense a lot
No.
of times in basketball games.
Well, no. Um,
Good.
well, one, I wouldn't officiate a men's league just
Yeah.
because I know those guys, and that does happen. And
Yeah.
I mean, when I started out, I do more what they call like the AAU and the travel type stuff, but I wouldn't even
Okay.
do that now. Like I
Right.
just I just do my college stuff and good.
Yeah.
Because I now what happens is as you do it more and more, the coaches come to know you. You learn how to quell those situations,
Hmm.
and um officiating is art as well as science, just like a derailleur adjustment,
Uh-huh.
where, yes, some of the things are black and white, and these are the rules, and this penalty equals this result, but there's also, was there an advantage to that? Do we need to stop the game? Like those things, like we're interrupters out there. It's like no one's there to see us. Just
Right.
keep them playing, keep them from hurting each other. But I've never had a situation like that. Thankfully, I mean, fights can happen, but I think you definitely see them more often on men's and boys' side, and then sometimes they can just come out of nowhere where
Right.
there's nothing that could have been done.
Yeah.
Person A was going to punch person B no matter what. But I will say this, it's a good balance. That's why I like riding my bike, because there are no whistles
Right.
out on my rides.
Right?
Yeah.
And actually, Chris pointed it out years ago. He's like, it was kind of a way that kept me fresh in the bike shop, where when winter would come, I'd leave early or take a couple of days off or whatever for games. The shop was fine. It was, the winter time.
Yeah.
And to take a break from some of those hours, and then when it's over, it made life even more seasonal, where you come back in the spring and then you're all right, we're ready to go now, let's go, let's have our big
Right.
giant demo day in April, and get
Ah,
everything
we
going and
all we
that
all
kind of
need
deal.
that.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
for sure.
Okay, all could use that for sure.
Yeah.
But like when you first started working for us, like what
Hmm.
would can you recall like maybe what were some of the bigger obstacles working in there? I mean, was it just that you maybe didn't feel tech savvy?
uh, I so honestly, you made it easy, to be quite honest with you, and I'm not trying to just blow smoke or anything,
That's all
because
right. You
I
can. That's
would
fine.
I wouldn't.
Yeah. Yeah. I
No,
don't think you would.
I think it was just learning the ropes of a small business as well. The my first I never wanted to screw up, because I thought that, I mean, this was your livelihood, right? It's like, yes, this is a
Right.
fun little job for me, but this is also for the pot of Anna's rent, or whatever.
Mhm. Right.
So I think I was a little timid that way. I remember you guys were kind of in a transition phase. I mean, Kelly was coming in like once a
Oh,
week then,
yep, Kelly.
and then I'm not sure the timing of it, but I remember, I don't know if it was you or Aaron was asking me about selecting clothing, for the floor, and I was like, I was scared to death. I'm like, I don't want to select clothing that nobody buys.
which is
No,
most clothing, by the way.
yes.
Yeah, right. It was like 99% of it. Nobody
Yeah.
wants it. It's the wrong color, size,
Yeah.
brand. It's like,
Oh my
geez,
God. Yeah.
dude.
But it's true.
Apparel's
I
a
mean, like,
loser.
yeah, but that's a tough being a buyer for any store, especially when you're still new and trying to figure out, how that all works. And you're right with the clothing, sadly, but um other obstacles are just me learning how to do things, learning the product, learning that everyone everyone who comes in and says they're Chris's friend might not be Chris's friend. So
How to screen that.
Uh-huh.
yeah, gosh, I haven't
Yeah.
thought about those early days for so long. I mean, I
Yeah.
just the things you don't know because you think like everyone's like you in life, right? Like same with like how you do your house at home. You think, well, everyone must fold their towels this way. No, they don't, and
Yeah.
everyone. So these people who come into the store, might behave in a way that is very different than how you might behave when you go in a store. For like, if they want to special order a bike, oh well, we need to get payment, and I'm thinking, well, why? Because I'd be like, if I say I'm going to buy the bike, I'm going to come back and buy the bike, but not everyone does.
Yeah.
No. Mm-mm.
Mhm.
Yeah. We
So
definitely
like,
adjusted that policy.
yeah. So
Yeah.
all those things that you learn. Um, Yeah, I think once I got past most of my fear of screwing it all up, I think it went a lot better. The other big change for me was after so then like the second spring, like 2014-ish, then like working an extra day really helped me understand the flow of the shop, understanding how sales affects service, how ordering affects this, and like those things when you're only piecemealing it and kind of here and there, you don't necessarily see. So in helping follow up with different things, but um, I really think it was easy, quite honestly. I mean, we had some funny people working back then.
Oh
So
yeah. A cast of characters for
a cast
sure.
of characters.
Yeah.
You could look back on, right?
but but yeah, I mean, I I I honestly, if I don't see obstacles when I look back at my time. I thought most, even some of the knucklehead guys that worked there were always willing to help, and teach me something or help out. They wouldn't leave me,
Right.
you know.
Mhm.
So, yeah, so it's all good.
So
So
how
yeah,
is
like
she? Oh, go
go
ahead.
ahead.
I was
So
just,
we'll try to edit that out. But I was gonna say, and I think I know the answer, but I would always hear when Cover was making sales or talking to a customer, she is just so, she'd always be laughing with the customer, and I always thought how great that was. Like it wasn't like this super serious. I mean, I'm sure it was serious, but when you can laugh with the customer,
Yeah,
I think that just breaks it down. And I remember like I always would tell the other employees, Maul, look at that. Like that's what needs to happen. You need to just be, it doesn't have to be so intense. Have fun with the customer, get them to laugh. You should laugh. And I
yeah.
remember talking to Chris about it. I think her answer was something along the lines of it was more of a nervous laugh.
it was the only card I had to play. I don't really understand all these technical things, so
Yeah.
let's just have a good time.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
it's
you're strong enough to ride this bike, sir.
Yeah, oh yeah.
yeah, it's a great card to play. I mean, the thing, obviously being an outside rep, you do a lot of clinics and sales clinics,
Mhm.
and we have a lot of young people that get in the industry and they just get so enamored with the technology and all the stuff, and they just want to go blast somebody's face off with all this information
Yeah,
about, the derailleur and the shifter and the thing and the
yeah,
STI and the dingle, whatever it is. And it's just like, most of that stuff doesn't really matter to most of the people, you know?
right.
So you just got to connect on a human level and then keep
Right.
all that
Oh,
stuff.
for sure.
Yeah, just keep all that stuff in your back pocket. And then if you get a chance to like wow them with some little tidbit, then okay, but don't just filibust people. with all this information,
Right,
Well,
so.
right.
Chris would, I remember learning from you, like you would make every customer feel like they were your most important customer. Now, our problem was when some of them believed it, but it was amazing to watch, honestly, because
Mhm.
I thought, wow, that because it's again connecting with people, and it
Sure.
is it is a bicycle. It's not a hot water heater. Like people are out shopping for something that hopefully they want, and other than I just need this so I can shower kind of thing,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But connecting with people is probably the number one thing in sales, and I would sad to say, just the way culture is going, um, we don't connect, right? We're on our screens and this and that, and we're buying online and we're doing whatever. Where I think the value, people like Chris would say, they made the effort to get in their car to come down here and fight all the parking, and all those other issues. It's like, let's make it worth their time. Let's help them, let's connect with them. And people will do that. They won't remember what they'll remember how you made them feel.
Sure.
Right. So,
Yeah.
if they can have a good time and hey, that salesperson was really cool. I want to go back there.
Right.
It's pretty good. Yeah. Trek does something that's actually interesting, which kind of helps keeps us on our toes. Is I'm not sure which customers get them, but customers get a response, like a chance to say, how was your out of 10, right? Was it a
Oh,
10 out
okay.
of 10 experience, and make a comment for all our sales? So, and this part of the rating system that they use. And I think that's great. I mean, any kind of checks and balances that, because we can all have a bad moment. We've all, we're in customer service. Sometimes we're just need more coffee, or whatever it is. you know?
Uh,
So it's a great way though that keeps us like, okay, if for no other reason, then that person's going to get a survey. I need to behave and, up my game again. So
mhm.
it's a good way to keep it fresh, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of coffee, so I this is one of my favorite stories. So I had taken Cover to one of the Giant events, and I think it was like maybe Colorado or something like that. So I don't think she'd ever been. So I was like, oh, let's go. It's really
I
cool.
remember.
Brought
I know.
Yeah.
and I introduced her to coffee. She's never had coffee, and we're sitting there watching something, and she's just like, "Oh my god, this is great! I love it!" It's like after that, I was just like mainline that stuff, man.
Oh yeah, I could not stop talking. It was very embarrassing.
It was so entertaining to watch happen. It was so great.
So you never had coffee prior to that trip?
No, no, I really didn't like it. And then
Uh-huh.
I had to change. I was changing my diet. Long story, but so I wasn't. I'd have like a diet Coke in the morning before, but then I was like, I have to have this other food now. And then I wasn't having any caffeine. And Chris was like, "Well, just try this coffee, see if you like it, whatever." And I'm like, "Whoop." It was like, "Oh, that was good stuff." My mouth was moving faster than my brain, which is usually not the case.
That's hilarious.
Oh,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, good
funny.
times, good times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I never caught the coffee thing. Never got it.
yeah.
Yeah.
I do
Oh,
miss those events though. I miss the like
Me
things like what
too.
Giant would do. Do you guys not do them anymore?
Yeah,
Uh,
it's been a long time.
yeah. I
gotcha.
wonder
Yeah,
if those will ever come back.
pre-COVID. Man, I hope so.
I know those
Very,
were.
very valuable.
I
Um,
agree too. It's like it really kind of helped you build a relationship with the company
right.
Hmm.
and
Yep.
meeting other retailers. All the friendships that evolved and all the tidbits of knowledge you'd pick up from those
Hmm.
events. Not
Yeah.
just product, but just like talking with other retailers, like what's happening in your environment.
Yeah. Well, that's why we called them the link, because it was, I mean, it's obviously a bicycle term, but it was linking dealers together and us with our retailers
Hmm.
and just everybody getting closer. And there's huge benefits in that. But
Yeah. Oh
yeah, it's
no.
going to be interesting to see where it all goes, because it is very expensive to do,
I bet.
to have a big resort and fly everybody in and do all this stuff. And, it's huge money. And yeah, be interesting to see if it comes back. I sure hope it does.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Certainly made my job easier, you
Right.
know. Yeah.
So yeah, because I know one year Chris Cover was out on a ride with the Live
Oh,
jersey,
I loved
and
it.
they got a good picture of her, and I think that was in
Oh
some
yeah,
other giant publications too.
it
So
Yes,
it was pretty
was.
cool. Yeah,
That's right. Cover
yeah.
girl.
Just like a
I loved
thumbs
it.
up. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
Uh,
yeah,
it was so fun because you remember before Hawaii, I did government work for 16 years. So in government work, you get no swag. There is like no company dinner. There's no,
Uh-huh.
nothing like that. There's no bonuses. There's no nothing. So when I got to go to an event, I think the first of, I don't know what event it was, but one of them, we got full kit. Like I got
Oh
full
yeah.
bibs and socks and a jersey. And I was like, oh my gosh,
yeah,
I just thought
Yep.
it was the greatest thing ever, to get to go and then, try the bikes and have that experience. I mean, it's not an industry where I think people get rich, but you can definitely be rich in your experiences and rich with people and
right.
Yeah.
have those times that if you can get the bills paid somehow, you can really have a good time.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
So,
Yeah.
yeah,
There's
yeah. I
been
mean,
so many moments in my career where it's like on top of a mountain with a bunch of,
yeah,
people or on a chairlift or whatever, just sitting in a hot tub in some resort somewhere. It's just like, man, this is pretty dope.
yeah.
oh yeah,
You
yeah.
know?
It is. This is a great industry to be in.
It
It's
Mhm,
is.
it's got so many,
mhm.
like you said, life perks and
Yeah.
all the friendships you can develop from there. But I know, like
Yeah.
every year when I was working with Chris, her and her husband John would take
Ah,
these cycle trips. But now she's working for Trek, so now
yeah.
she gets these super sweet Trek deals. Tell us
Oh
about that.
Mhm.
boy.
Yeah. So when we actually did at least one or two Trek travel vacations before I was working for Trek, but they really do a stellar job on these trips, and it's a great way. It's a great way to see any location and then not have to plan it and get in some exercise so you can eat or drink more. Um, like was it two years ago we went to Vaughan too,
Oh.
which I wouldn't think at my age. I was a little concerned that I'd even be able to get up the thing, to be quite honest with you. But we made it, a couple hours, but we made it.
Yeah.
And it's also like a ride like that is very weather dependent, and that can just be good or bad luck. It could, be very windy, but it wasn't. But we've discovered cycling vacations is just something we really, really love to do. And then with Trek, we get buy one, get one. So now it's a little less for
That's
us to do.
awesome.
But
Yeah.
they offer, it's really kind of fun too, because they offer e-bikes as an option. So we've met a lot of couples with a not, more of a non-riding or less riding partner who can just grab one of the e-bikes and have the same experience as the rest
Yeah.
of the group did during the day. And then, rather than, oh, well, I sat in the van because I don't ride a bike. It's like, no, I just rode the e-bike, have the same story.
Yeah.
And yeah, because really for us, like vacation, it's like, I don't know. I don't really just want to go sit on the beach always. I don't know. Like I need someone to plan it for me because I just don't care enough to have to do that. So
Hmm.
yeah, so we're headed, hopefully we're waiting to get John's approval for time off. Just to the East Coast this year, do like Vermont, hopefully see some leaves turn and that kind of thing. And then the other dream, which we'll see if it comes to be, it depends on John's time off, is we're planning on going to Chile in
Whoa.
January of 20 from now, because it will be our 25th wedding anniversary. So we're gonna
Uh,
go down like to Patagonia and that kind of thing. So
Wow,
crazy,
wow.
that's awesome.
crazy.
So
Yeah, we'll see.
you've done some other tours with other
Mm,
companies. So
yeah,
how would you compare like a Trek travel versus, like, I know you did the one with
yeah.
Pinarello before, right?
Yeah, so yeah, in Gamba, we did
In
that
Gamba.
one. That one was pretty cool. And then We've done some smaller ones. I would say for us, where we're at now, I don't want to go on a trip where I have to ride 55 miles and do 5,000 feet all week, every day. That's just not enjoyable to me.
Mike would.
Mike would love it. Mike would say, let's go again.
Uh-huh.
I seriously, Joe and John and I talk about it. We're like 30 miles, 35 miles, a couple thousand feet, 2, 3 hours, we're done. We get to relax and nap, that kind of thing. I
Yeah.
don't mind like 1 or 2 big days in there. That's cool. But I don't want to do like big day, big day, big day. It's like, no,
Right.
no, I'm not. I'm 56. It's no secret. Because I was thinking about that. Like when I started working for Chris, I had no problem carrying the repair bikes or whatever up and down the stairs, mountain bike, whatever. That was fine. But
Hmm.
sometime in the last few years, I'm like, I don't feel comfortable doing this anymore. Like the
Hmm.
heavy mountain bikes on the stairs, I'm like, this is not a good idea. Like I just
Right.
feel like it's gonna go south real quick.
Yeah.
So it's the same kind of thing. It's like,
Yeah.
those long rides, the 100-mile Mount Hamilton Sierra Road loop, it was
Yeah.
fun to do once, but I'm good.
Yeah.
I don't need to do again.
Right.
Well, that's a
Yeah.
really healthy perspective.
Well, and all
Yeah.
well, you're very different, Mike. I see what
Yeah.
you do on your rides. But
Not
like
very balanced.
the Everesting thing is like I never want to do that. There is nothing in me that wants to do that. Like I don't understand it at all.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Tell us, Mike,
Oh.
what you signed up for. What ridiculous
Uh,
Oh
event
yes.
you signed up
yes.
for?
I signed up for this event in Kansas, Unbound XL. So
Oh yeah, the 130 or whatever.
no, 350.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah.
How long is that going to take? 2 days?
Forever.
Like
Yeah.
24 hours maybe if I'm really fast.
Oh my gosh.
I just hope
Well,
I can
good
stay
for
awake.
you.
I just hope I can stay awake. That's because that's been my downfall. I've tried to do
Yeah.
some things like this in the past, and but I didn't enter into it. Like I didn't train for them. I would just show up and try to do the thing, and then I would end up wanting to fall asleep, like
Yeah.
a normal person, you know.
Sure.
Yeah, so I'm gonna try to. It's gonna be a good challenge here for the
What
next
time of the
five
day
months.
does it start? Do they like let you?
I think it starts at 7 a.m.
Okay, so you'll hope to finish by the next morning.
Yeah,
Oh, dear Lord.
I
yeah.
just wonder, like, what effect does that have on your body?
I know it
You
can't be
know?
good for you.
It can't
No.
be.
It can't be.
Sign
There's
me
no
up.
way. Yeah. And
I would
your
say,
mind too. You wonder about your
yeah.
brain. I mean, a lot of times when you do these events, like you get into like a really dark place
Hmm.
mentally,
Hmm.
where everything hurts. And I have this inner dialogue. We had this guest on, Michael Seeley, who Chris got on the podcast, and he's a guy that helps with coaching and he really taught me some stuff. But still, in these events, you end up everything hurts and you're just like, why am I doing this? It's so stupid, and like you just start beating yourself up
Yeah,
because it's like, what's the point? Like to your point, 2.5, 3 hours on a bike is
I'm
fantastic.
good.
Yeah.
Yep.
5, 6 hours, it's like, oh man, this is a lot. 10, 12 hours, it's like, okay, well, I'm not very smart. And then, beyond that, then it's just like, okay, I'm an idiot. What have I done
Yeah.
to myself here? I paid
I,
for this.
Okay, so here
yeah.
that was one of the things I was going to ask. And then also, how does your wife respond when you tell her you're doing these?
Yeah,
Like that.
He's like looking over his shoulder.
something like, what is wrong with you?
I was thinking that
Yeah.
if John wanted to do that, I'd be like, well, I don't
But
know.
there is an upside to it. So, like to your point about laying on the beach. So when we go on vacation, I would always have a hard time just chilling out,
Yeah,
just really disengaging. So if I get up, I am an early riser. So if I get up early, go pound out like a 2.5, 3 hour ride, that's all I need. And then I can
yeah,
come back and I can literally lay on the beach all
yeah.
day and be content.
Hmm.
Whereas even if the best intentions, I just can't do it. If
Yeah.
I don't know. And so she sees that. So she appreciates the fact that I found something that kind of just gets me to chill out a little bit because I'm just kind of like,
Sure.
I hate categorizing myself this way, but I am. I'm just kind of like a little bit, it's just always running. The motor's just running all the time.
Hmm.
And if I don't do something physically, then I can just be a little agitated. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I'm ever rude or mean or anything. I'm just kind of uncomfortable. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I don't know. Yeah. She can sense it. So,
Shoot,
So
24
she
hours
says,
on a
good.
bike, man. That's crazy.
No.
I mean,
yeah.
I can't even sit on a couch for 24 hours.
No.
Well, it'll be a great test. There's this guy that I follow on social media is Jesse Siegler, and he presented this concept of this thing called the misogi. The misogi is it's a Japanese ritual where you do one event in a year that requires your focus for the entire year. So
Hmm.
whether it be, diet, exercise, whatever it is, it requires you to, and then each year becomes like a milestone year. So you can look back, because I'm really bad. The thing that really resonated with this idea is that I'm really bad with remembering what year I did something, or we did something. But I can remember like my first Everest was 2018. So like these big milestones, it does resonate with you. Like I just remember these things. So that part of it really resonated with me. So I'm going to adopt this Misogi idea. Um, I've done it in the past, not knowing that it was a Japanese ritual, but now that I know this ritual, I don't know. I think it's probably a pretty healthy thing to do, especially as we get older and
Yeah.
it's so easy to go off the rails. I love sweets like if there's chocolate in the house, good luck. You know what I mean?
Where'd that
So
chocolate go?
yeah, so having this other thing that requires you to be a kook about your health and your fitness, it probably works in my favor, I think. And especially as I get older, it's harder. You say you're
Yes, it is.
56, I'm
Yep.
58.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
like I was really relating to what your story about carrying the mountain bike down the stairs.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this is true for you, but like for me, it's like it's not so much the act of carrying the bike or the weight of the bike. It's like the awkwardness of it, and then my my own coordination. I feel like my coordination is not where it used to be.
Hmm.
My hand-eye coordination certainly isn't. And then also sometimes like I'll just be walking and I'll like catch my foot on something and just be like, what is the matter with me? Pick up your feet.
Sniper. We call that sniper. You
Yeah,
got sniped.
sniper. Yeah. So there's all kinds of weird little things that as we get older, that
Yeah.
I don't know, for me anyway. How about you, CP?
Yeah, I think like even in the morning, like walking down my stairs, we have this really steep stairs, and I'm finding myself, I gotta hold on to the rail. It's
Whoa.
like,
The rail.
yeah, it's like easy. It's
Yeah.
dark. I don't want to turn on the lights, because my
Yeah,
wife's sleeping, and the dogs are like down the stairs. I'm just like, whoa,
right.
easy.
Well, and that's to that point. Like even at the shop, like we had our young guy, like John Dunbar, be like running down the
Oh
stairs,
yeah.
skipping a step, and I'm like, I remember.
Yeah. Yeah.
Remember when I
Oh,
used to be able to do that?
Yeah,
When
yeah.
your
yeah, we're getting
knees
close
could
to the age
bend.
where you'd fall and break your hip, and that's it, game over.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's not funny when we fall now.
Yeah,
Every
911.
Yeah,
everyone is scared. That's the worst. Or I don't know if I get this where people say, "Oh, are you okay, sir?"
yeah.
Sir, who the hell are
Is
you
my dad
talking
is
to?
my dad around here? What are you talking about?
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's
That's funny.
age is undefeated, unfortunately,
Yeah.
but we can fight off father time by, riding our bikes. I do really think riding your bike does keep you young at heart
Sure.
and in
Sure.
spirit, and
Healthier.
yeah, for sure healthier.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
and
I feel like, yeah.
and Chris is fast. Don't let her play
Yeah.
downplay. I mean,
Yeah.
I've been
Yeah.
with her. I was just like, man, this is a little faster than I'm comfortable with.
Right.
Well, we've all been on those rides.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Zone two. Let's
Yeah.
Yeah.
turn it down.
Yeah, that's where you got to come in as the administrator and try to control the situation, right?
Right.
Yeah, you're going too
Exactly.
hard, man. This is going to be an easy day.
Right.
That's the biggest lie of all, right? Oh
Right.
yeah, we'll just go. It's just gonna be an easy day, man. We'll just chill.
Yep. Yep.
Seen that blow up so many times. So, okay, so how about has your role changed at all?
Oh
Working
yeah,
for Chris and now working for Trek. What because I know they have like a bunch of
it's a good
online
question.
education, right?
Hmm.
So I'm sure that's a big part of being an employee of Trek. You
Hmm.
need to know the product, and you gotta do these modules. I'm sure. I'm an employee of Giant. We have the same thing, a similar thing, and it's expected that we're just up on all that stuff. So beyond that, what else is different?
A lot is different, and it's totally fine. It's the difference is back to the autonomy of a small business, right? Where you do what's needed, you do where you fit, and then a lot of times our roles would develop over time, where you just find out where people's strengths lie and have them do that. Um, I basically now just come in and sell things. That's it. I don't, I do have a key, but I don't count the drawers, for instance. Like with Chris, I would open or close the drawers, those kinds of things with the
Hmm.
cash money. So I don't do any of that. I don't even think I know. We have the metal gates now because we had quite a few break-ins through the big
Hmm.
glass windows. I don't have the key to that, but I do have a key to the door. So, but again, I am fine with less responsibility.
Yeah,
Like that's
right.
cool,
Yeah.
Like with Chris, I would help clean up like the purchase orders and check in product and those kind of things and making sure product got ordered. And well, one of the big things that's different is we have a buyer. And so individual shops don't, I mean, we have great communication with her and what the shop needs and doesn't need and that kind of thing. So it does work just fine, but it's different, like there would be sales we could make where I need this, but I need it tomorrow, where we could like, well, let's take a look, let's get enough together from Q and let's launch it. And yep, it'll be here tomorrow for you. Where that is a little bit more difficult now
Hmm.
to have happen. And then also having, you know, saying with confidence the day when your product might arrive. It's like, because we're not always sure, like
Got
it
it.
will most likely be ordered on this day and most likely show up this
Mm.
day. But so it's just different and learning. And to that point, I'm guessing a lot of that comes from, meeting certain product minimums or shipping minimums being always met and those kinds of things that, the buying power of such a large company is crazy. Like you consider, buying from, Q with everything that Trek buys from Q, that's a crazy amount of what
Yeah.
they give you like a credit at the end of the year or however they do it. So
All
there's
right.
a lot that goes into that there's a lot more that's known at a higher level that isn't known, in the store level. But again, communication's fantastic. It's still things get done. But so yeah, I just pretty much show up and sell stuff. So
Yeah. That's pretty
I don't
cool.
mind.
Yeah, that
I don't
part of
mind.
it's really cool, right? You don't have to worry about any of the other stuff.
It
How-
is, but then the other challenge becomes, and I'm well aware of this, is opportunity for growth. Like just as a human being,
Hmm.
and thinking like, okay, I wonder like how long can anyone be happy in any situation that never changes? Like it has to change somehow,
Right.
and just trying to figure that part out other because otherwise you just get bored, right? I mean, no matter what it is, like even I always said like, well, even if you're a heart surgeon, you still just do heart surgery all the time. But at least heart surgery is changing, right? There's new techniques or there's new meds or there's new things that we try. So just trying to keep it fresh and keeping it interesting that way. So we'll see.
Got it.
Well, definitely
Yeah.
every day was different. when it was
Every day
when it
was
was eaten. It was
different.
like you don't know what you're walking into. But I think one of the things that, and I think you hit on it earlier, was that you recognize that this is how that business was how I fed my family, and
Mhm.
Hmm.
and oftentimes as a small business owner, you're like the staff depends on me, so I've got to be here for the
Yeah.
staff. Slow times of the year, I would not pay myself to make sure that we could cover
Mhm.
payroll for the staff, or keep people on the schedule. But Chris always did a really good job of keeping an eye on the store for us. Like running it.
I understand
Eyes
what you're
like we
saying.
would have. It was always very appreciative.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, it is. It's interesting because as an owner or a manager, a lot of times you're looking at like, man, I'm paying these people and they're all just, sitting around,
Right.
uh, but so you can make those types of observations, but then there's other times where everybody's just full gas engaged and maybe it's 30 minutes past closing. So
Mhm.
there's like a give and take
Mhm.
but I think I know I always looked for that as a store manager was like, I wanted people to have, I wanted my staff to have the same approach to it that I did, the same eye, the
Mhm.
same mentality.
Right.
Whereas, when it came to that, I definitely appreciated different outlooks on, how the store looked or maybe processes or whatever. But I wanted everyone to have like this sense of ownership, looking at it like, hey, if it gets better, it gets better for all of us. So let's all
Right. Right.
Sure.
that. So yeah, it is, that's something that's really invaluable to have an employee for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it can be hard to find, because you would get a number of employees in the store, and it's like if you're not pulling your weight in a small store, it's like you stick out like a sore thumb,
Yeah.
You're going to hear about it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Well, the other situation like Chris and I had was like I came from a structured environment working for government. So to not have too much structure was fine with me. Like I didn't need to be like, well, you need to take your 15-minute break between 10 and 11 and you need to take, this like I didn't need that. So I was very comfortable with okay, like he would come up, what are you doing? I'd be like, well, I'm on Facebook right now, but
Yeah.
to not sweat that because I'm not really taking any other breaks, or whatever. And then but again, the flip side of that is like, hey, I'm going to stay after and help this person, or I'm not going to sweat
right,
that I need to call or text you, or you need something from me when I'm not at the shop. I'm happy to, like there's that kind of interchange that you can
right,
have in a more informal setting
Hmm.
where I think with any corporation, it's not as informal, right? It's like, well, no, it's to this minute and that minute, and this has to happen. So it's like, well, that's fine, but that's going to go both ways too, right?
Right.
right.
So
Yeah,
just adjusting to that, and then having Dalton there, it's like, well, I feel a loyalty to him. He's a friend.
Yeah.
I want to help him out and make sure not just that the shop's successful, but that he's successful.
Sure.
It's important. So
yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
know having those structured roles can be, a blessing and a curse in a way. I know, like, as, just managing people. I remember I got into, I was young too. So I mean, take this with a grain
Yeah.
of salt. I was just a young kid and I'm managing I got thrown into it just for whatever reason. And I just remember like we had these builders and we were super busy and the phone was ringing and nobody's picking up the phone and they're just sitting back there. These two guys are just back
Oh.
there building bikes and the phone just kept ringing, kept ringing, kept ringing. And like when you're on the sales floor, I don't know about you, but like that's just stress, right? It's like I
Hmm.
want to focus on the sale, but I can't now. I mean, I'm
Hmm.
trying to do my best, but there's this other thing that's like driving me nuts. And
right.
so and I just remember the conversation. He's like, "Well, I'm a bike builder." And I'm like, I remember
Oh,
my
geez.
reaction was like, yeah, I'm the store manager. I pick up the phone, okay? I pick up
Right,
the phone. You're here and the phone's
right,
not, it's ringing, pick it up. But
right.
but yeah, so it can be a little bit challenging getting in these silos sometimes where it's like, oh no,
Yeah.
this is like, well, all right, this needed to get done, and
Yep.
Yeah, it's just
logical.
small business is just definitely different than, at
Mhm.
least from my perspective, than a corporate business. I would have
Yeah,
some guys, some people on staff who would just be suddenly they're coming in like, I need my 15-minute break. And it's like, hey, you can take your 15
that's
minute break
right.
whenever you want. But if
Yeah,
you're gonna start playing hardball with me,
Yeah.
I
then all those times you're on Facebook or you're checking your phone, I'm
Yeah.
gonna have to drill down on you. And it's like,
yeah.
so
Yeah.
like Chris said, there's a little give and take. It's like, we can be lax, but don't start turning the screws on me.
Uh-huh.
Exactly. This is like, just don't poke the bear, man. Just leave
Uh,
it alone.
yeah. I mean, but that's old school mentality too, because I know,
Yeah.
like, I had those guys. I need a 15-minute break. It's like, what have you been doing all afternoon?
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
come on. You got one bike built. You've been here 4 hours. I mean, come on. The
All
whole thing's a
right.
break for Pete's sake, you
Yeah.
know? Yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, we never had a time clock. I don't know. You had a time clock at Eden, didn't you?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that
See,
my
we
wife
never
was
had a time clock.
HR, so that was like we had to like
Uh-huh.
a lot of that stuff we were definitely by the book, clocking
Yeah.
Yeah.
in,
Oh,
clocking
yeah.
out, get your lunch break, make sure you get your lunch break, and
Oh, yeah.
you know,
Did I ever tell you about the Triflow flame shooting?
Oh,
I
jeez.
ever tell you about this? So this is so bad. I mean, but this gives you an idea. So in our shop, we had these little tiny doors. That went to the sink. There was a little door that opened up to the sink, and then there was a door right next to it that went to the toilet. So there was like these two little doors. So I was just in there one day, taking care of business, and all of a sudden, through the bottom of the door comes this like a flame, like this huge
jeez.
flame, and it's so tight that like when you shut the door, it just barely clears the toilet. You know what I mean? It's just, and
Oh
so
god.
you're like right on the door. The door's like right here, and all of a sudden, whoosh, just comes up, and I was like, oh,
Yeah.
and I go running out, and everybody is just laughing like hysterically,
Oh,
and this was before I was manager. I was just a bike builder at this point, but that was
right.
like part of the initiation. But it's like, we've
Jeez.
come a long way since then.
Let's hope.
Yeah. Right.
They called it the hot
Let's
seat.
hope.
I got the hot seat.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. There's still some
Crazy.
pranks, but yeah, not
yeah,
like
so
that.
maybe we did need to get a little bit more corporate at the bike shop level.
A little bit, yeah. Well, I'll
Yeah.
say this. Like we talk about, there's there are small business corporate, but one of the real joys of my job is still the same
Hmm.
with I just love that customer who comes in like right around that 800 to $1,200 bike, or maybe even that e-bike customer now, right?
Hmm.
That is just either bumping up their cycling or getting into cycling and needs just a little bit of guidance, needs help with their accessories, and just has a fantastic time and get like they're getting it, right? The lights are going on. And I'll take that customer any day over that $10,000 bike customer usually. Cause like,
Hmm.
especially if it's a roadie, because I'm one, I know it's like they know what they want and it's got to be this. And it's just not fun, really. It's not a fun sale, right?
Hmm.
The fun
Yeah.
sale is, oh, I'll just move my seat here or there. That feels better, or whatever.
Well,
And
yeah. I
like
mean,
get all
it
their
seems
stuff.
it's less I mean, to your point, it can be a little less rewarding because, they're maybe an enthusiast and not that it's not rewarding, but when someone's upping their game in cycling or getting involved in cycling, you're sharing that experience. And so that energy
Yeah.
level is
Yeah.
like, it's like you feel good about what you did, you know,
Hmm.
Yeah.
it's really cool.
Totally. And I think that goes brand to brand, store to store. That's just like the constant in this industry that, we sell a good time, really. Like the test rides are the biggest joke of the whole thing. It's like, haha, you just had fun and now you have to buy it. Right.
Right.
So it's like,
Yeah. Yeah, that's what
so
keeps us all doing it, I think. It's like, you in a weird, it's like changing the world one bike at a time. It's
yeah.
Absolutely.
fun to see people take that first step towards, getting on a bike. And, I used to love the families like where you'd get like
Oh
maybe
yeah.
a husband and wife and a burly trailer or something, you know. That's
Hmm.
dating myself a little bit probably,
Yeah.
uh, but yeah, those were great, you know, because they were just young and just like they got this young family and they're just starting their
Yeah.
life together, and it's like that's just so cool, just getting them all hooked up,
Hmm.
and yeah,
Yeah,
so many good memories. Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's easy to get beat down by retail, but if you remember, you know, it's I think it's human nature too. Like we always remember that you could have 100 positive reviews and you get two bad ones, and you
Yeah.
could probably recite the bad ones word for
Yep.
word, you know, while the 98 whatever otherwise. But
Right.
Yeah.
you know, it's just human nature. I think we remember the tough times, but man, there's so many great times with retail.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen, I don't know. We should probably wrap it up. It's getting kind of late. Do you have anything else you want to say, CP? You want to ask Cover?
No, I just think that you know, having Cover, having Chris in the store, and you know, particularly having a woman in the store, I think just really kind of made my experience as a retail owner, you know, that much better. So, you
Aw.
know,
Yeah.
I'm very appreciative of having, you know, Chris on staff, and you know, any shop owners that are out there, if you don't, you know, if you can have a woman on staff, I just think it brings another level to your game, and you know,
Hmm.
it's great.
Yeah. Yeah. No doubt. Awesome. Okay. Well, let's wrap it up. I don't know, Chris, if people want, if they really like what they heard today and they want to, you know, what's the best way to get a hold of you? Just trek Castro Valley, go visit you at
Yeah,
the retail shop.
that would be there. I'm there most Sundays, or stop on in and find out when I'm going to be there next. Absolutely. That'd be great. But
Awesome.
and then I mean, both of you guys have had such a big role in my life. So obviously Chris more than you, Mike,
Sure.
um but I miss having you come in. You know,
Yeah.
it's just been a nice journey, and it's nice to have it's nice to have bridges, right? That
Yes.
are, you know, and to keep
Absolutely.
those relationships going. And
Well put.
yeah, it's all
Yeah.
good. I'm very appreciative of you guys as well. So it's all
Yeah.
good.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Well, we do have yeah, I have a reason to come to Castro Valley here again. So,
Oh yeah.
yeah. So, yeah, maybe I'll stop in next time. But you're there Sundays? What about during the week?
Not till probably March, or well, actually, probably sooner than that because we're losing a person. But
Oh,
I
okay.
don't know. I mean, we don't. That's just, you know, just in flux still.
All
So it'll
right.
get worked out.
Well, I'll surprise
Yeah.
you. Yeah.
Oh, great.
All right. Well, let's wrap it up. Thank you so much, Chris, for joining us, or
Yeah,
Cover
thanks,
Well,
for
thank
joining
Cover.
you.
us. Yeah.
Yeah.
And thanks for listening, everybody.
Yeah. Good times.